Hi guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to learn about a very good concept that is known as division of labor and of specialization. Now, division of labor is the process where you break down the production of a good or service into a series, into various tasks, where each worker will perform a separate or a specific task, or a group of workers will perform a specific or a separate task. So, for example, instead of, let's say I have a pin factory where I make pins, I manufacture pins, right? So instead of one worker, cutting the wire, straightening the wire, sharpening, yeah, I mean, cutting wire, straightening and sharpening, and then forming them into pins, I would divide the workers, and some of the workers would just be cutting the wire, others would just be doing straightening, and some would be sharpening. And this concept was popularized by Adam Smith in his book The Wealth of Nations in 1776, where he gave this pin factory example, and he showed how dividing the production into different stages dramatically increased the productivity compared to single worker, or one worker making a pin from start to finish. So the key idea of division of labor is that it increases efficiency, and efficiency increases, efficiency of the workers increases, and obviously that results in more output, so it benefits the firms as well. So efficiency rises because each worker then becomes skilled. At the same time, he becomes fast at a specific narrow task that he is assigned, right? On the other hand, when we talk about specialization, it is slightly a similar concept, but more, you can say that division of labor is more relevant or specific to a particular worker, while specialization is more specific to across industry. I mean, division of labor is more specific to a worker or a firm, while specialization is more specific to across industries, let's say regions or even nations. They specialize as well. And when we talk about specialization, specialization basically occurs when individuals, firms, regions, or even the whole countries, they concentrate on the production of those goods and services. Now hear this out, that they focus on the production of those goods and services in which they have an advantage. Now, later on, when you will be studying the chapter of international trade, you learn something that is known as absolute and comparative advantage. So, countries, they specialize in which they have an absolute and comparative advantage, and we at this point do not need to know what absolute and comparative advantage is. So, for now, you can only understand that firms, regions, or even whole countries would concentrate on the production of those goods in which they have a certain advantage, right? That is, in simple words, what you can learn is that they are best at what they are doing. So they would focus on doing something, but they would basically concentrate on the production of those goods and services that they can best produce, because maybe they can produce those they can best produce those goods and services, maybe because they have certain factor endowments or factors of production simply, or resources that are best suited to them, right? So Pakistan specializes in agriculture, right? So because of the natural climate it possesses, right? So, and if you want to connect specialization to division of labor, what you can say is that division of labor is more of a micro sort of a thing, where it happens within the firm, or it's more related to a specific production process, while specialization is more of a macro thing which happens across industries, regions, or even nations. An ultimate goal of specialization is that, see, specialization basically it happens because countries have ability to trade, right? Even industries have the ability to trade, that is to produce and sell goods, right? Whether it is happening between industries or by industries or even nations. Because the idea is that if you only produce one thing, you need to, and if you just focus on, so suppose that country A just focuses on agriculture, and it's just focuses all its resources on agriculture, then it needs to sort of import maybe manufactured goods from those countries that are best at producing manufactured goods, maybe because they have skilled labor to produce them, they have the technology, they have the natural climate that suits the production, or maybe their labor cost to produce manufactured goods is very low, they have good amount of oil based, they sort of have those natural resources that are used to generate power and electricity that fuels and powers factories. So their power cost is very low, or so there could be a multitude of factors. So what we learn is that, you know, if you're focusing on only to produce one thing, you need to exchange it for other goods and services that you cannot produce. That is why countries trade with each other, right? They focus on those things that they're best at producing, while importing those that they aren't able to produce. Now we need to also know the advantages of division of labor and specialization. Let's say for division of labor, you can say that it results into higher productivity because workers sort of repeat. Workers are just repeating one tasks, right? And repeating one task improves through just doing it again and again. So it's improving through practice. That is simply learning by doing. On the other hand, it also results in time saving. So because no time is lost in switching between tasks, right? So you're just focusing on one task, or you're just focusing. Um, Also, you know, I mean, as far as your division of labor is concerned, it is easier to, introduce machinery, because, or simply use of machinery becomes easier because it's easier to introduce automation when tasks are very much simplified. And we can have machine A, which is being used by a group of 3 workers who are just cutting the wood. Maybe machine B, which focuses on polishing, being used by the other 3 workers who are just focusing on polishing of the wood, let's say. Maybe because it's a furniture factory, let's say, right? So use of machinery becomes easier, and it's easier to, like I said, it's easier to bring in automation when the tasks are simplified, where each group of workers or worker is focusing on a particular task. It also results in skill development because workers gain expertise but in a specific activity, right? As far as specialization is concerned, the advantages are that it results in higher efficiency, because resources are allocated to producing those goods that each industry or country or producers are best at producing. I mean, resources are allocated to what each industry or nation or producers does best. So it leads to higher output, right? Ultimately, nations also thrive in terms of higher economic growth and GDP. Also, it results into a term that is known as economies of scale. Economies of scale means that your average cost, that is, average cost simply means cost per unit, goes down. Remember that specialization would result in higher productivity as well, and like I said, it results in higher efficiency, and that causes your average or unit cost of production to go down. And obviously, these benefits of lower unit cost would then be translated to consumers as well in the form of lower prices. It results in trade benefits because, specialized products, specialized producers and industries and nations who are specializing in certain goods can exchange whatever, because it results in a large output being produced. Initially, you were producing various goods and services. You were trying to be self-sufficient in almost all goods and services, but now you're focusing on what you're best at doing, right? So specialized producers of firms or nations and industries can exchange their surplus output in international markets by importing those that they can't produce, which again increases variety for consumers in the country, and it increases the consumption possibilities of the country, because now you aren't producing that good, but you're consuming it because you're importing from some other country and exporting your surplus output to that country, right? Also, guys, it results in innovation because, I mean, you're specialized in something, and then the fact that there's a lot of repetition, you're just focusing on that. So repetition and focus may inspire the process to improve, and again, it also results in technological progress to take place. So in that context, it results in innovation as well. While some of the disadvantages that we could focus on are that, division of labor, again, a very textbook example I'm giving, it results in monotony and boredom because division of labor see, like I said, specialization and division of labor are too much connected. But like I said, division of labor is more focused and relevant to an individual worker, or let's say a particular firm in in a specific industry. I mean, a particular single firm, like, let's say. But when we're talking about specializations, we're talking about a group of firms or industries or nations, and right? So it leads to boredom and monotony because repetition reduces the job satisfaction. So it lowers the productivity, and it can also lower motivation. So that's a bad thing as well, right? So while division of labor can increase productivity because repetition means that you become perfect at your task, but then it can reduce the productivity, especially when motivation goes down because you get bored. Also, this is a very important disadvantage. It results in overdependence because if one stage of the production process breaks down, If the person who was supposed to cut the wires did not give those wires to me, then I may not be able to do the other stuff that I'm supposed to do. Let's say straightening and sharpening the wires will not be done. So the task B depends upon the completion of task A, right? So if I but since I am only focused on task B, and if the workers are not able to complete task A, then I am just not doing anything and I'm wasting my time. So that's a disadvantage. It results in overdependence. If one stage breaks down, the entire production line just halts up, right? And workers might also feel alienated in the sense that workers feel detached in the sense that they're just focusing on just one thing. And if I am just focusing on maybe cutting wires, then I can't really take the ownership of the entire product being, so I can't feel part of the whole entire product, because my job was just to cut the wire. So I can't really own the entire product, that I did that because I just did a particular task. In that sense, we're talking about alienation. So workers feel detached from the final product, and that results in a loss of motivation. As far as specialization is concerned, you can also so you can say over here it results in over reliance on trade, because the thing is that if your country could produce, or your industries could produce 5 different products, but now you're specifically focusing on those that you're specialized at producing, and you specialize over there because you could produce those the best. But let's say you are importing the rest from some other country, and that other country is in a war, or let's say the two countries don't have good bilateral foreign relations, and that results in sanctions or stuff like that. So, or if over there in that country supply chain breaks down, or there are supply chain shocks, negative supply chain shocks, or supply chain in the sense over there the production line breaks down, so the trade is disrupted. So in that case, specialized economies may suffer from shortages, both in terms of importing, your product is ready to be exported, but their product isn't ready to be exported to you, right? Also, the fact that there's vulnerability to demand shifts, because if global demand for your specialized particular product that you're producing falls, if let's say from tomorrow no one just wants agriculture, then who will Pakistan export agriculture to? So if global demand for your specialized product falls, then the whole economy or the firm suffers in that sense, right? Also, resource depletion, because regions or industries or countries that are specializing in a particular product may over extract resources, resulting in exhausting their natural endowment and natural factors of production that are responsible to produce that good. So it might result in this resource depletion, right? So these are basically the disadvantages. And also remember that division of labor and specialization, this is a good line that I've written, that they are twin pillars of economic efficiency, because both, firstly, like I said, division of labor occurs within the firms between the workers, which leads to higher output and higher efficiency, right? While specialization, we're talking about industry specializing and nation specializing. So specialization occurs across economies, and that magnifies these benefits of, not only, but it magnifies the benefits of higher output and efficiency on a much global level, right? But then it also results in interdependence. Interdependence means that if country A is exporting to B, then it's also importing from B. It's not producing the same good that B is producing. So it results in interdependence. They both become dependent on each other, right? So there's interdependence. And if during wars or something, or when there is bad relations, political, so that could be a problem. Now, like I said, that division of labor and specialization are twin pillars of economic efficiency, but they come with trade-offs, right? And the trade-offs are that trade-off between efficiency and resilience, and the trade-off between productivity and vulnerability. Now, what I mean by this is, like I said, that division of labor and specialization, although they increase efficiency and productivity, both increase efficiency and productivity. And ultimately, like I said, that the division of labor is increasing specialization, productivity, and it results in higher output and efficiency within the firms, but specialization that magnifies the same benefits of higher output and efficiency across a global level. But yes, it results in increasing interdependence. So division of labor and specialization increases efficiency and productivity by allowing the workers, the firms, or even the countries to focus on what they do best, right? Producing more output or a higher output at a much lower cost, because that is what efficiency is. You're producing more output at a lower cost. So cost per unit goes down. For every unit that you're making, there your cost per unit goes down. So that's a good thing. However, remember that this very focus on specialized product or a unique or an independent or a single product, or focusing all your resources or a measure of your resources to certain industries or certain sectors, creates vulnerability, right? Because let's say a production line that is highly efficient can collapse, and if just one stage fails, right, then it could be a problem, because the other stages are dependent on that stage. And let's say even at an economy level, this was I was talking about the firm level, but even at an economy level, an economy that specializes heavily in, let's say, a very few goods, good A, good B, or good C only, right? It becomes very fragile and weak, because weak in the sense that if, in terms of global demand shifting, if global demand shifts, or wars happen, or anything, or trade is disrupted due to wars, right? So in that case, it becomes fragile. So in other words, what we're saying is that the trade-off that we're talking about is that while specialization and division of labor does increases efficiency through, efficiency does goes up through specialization and division of labor, but the entire system becomes less resilient to shocks. So efficiency goes up, but the system becomes less resilient to shocks, negative shocks, which not only leaves the workers at individual levels, but also firms, industries, or entire nations, highly exposed, which will say highly exposed to certain risks that they cannot easily control or win over. Right, guys? So I think that's all for this topic, and that's all what you need to know. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, take care.